Can they find a solution? Our guest host is Maya McGinnis of the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. And from our Washington bureau just across town, Bonjean. He's the owner of crisis management firm, the Bonjean Company. He's also had plenty of experience. He was the first person to have been lead spokesman for the House and Senate. Talk about crisis management here, Ron. So tell us how this works. We know Paul Ryan and Eric Cantor come out with op-eds that change the conversation. What exactly is going on behind the scenes for Republicans as they try to game out a new strategy?
Well, here's what's happening. I think it's a two-front war here. I mean, right now they're trying to convince President Obama to negotiate. House leadership is trying to convince President Obama to negotiate, and at the same time, they have to talk to their conservative House Republican, especially the Republican Study Committee, about their plan. Paul Ryan was in a closed-door meeting yesterday presenting an outline of a plan to get out of this situation, to raise the debt ceiling based upon budgetary reforms and entitlement reforms. And, you know, right now the struggle with a number of these conservatives is that it looks like the House GOP leadership is starting to stop talking about Obamacare. What they're saying is this is a long-term play. Delaying or defunding Obamacare is a long-term play. It's going to be difficult to do in this situation. So that's where we're at right now. I think this goes right up until the 17th because of the two-front deal they're trying to create here. One with the president and one with their own conservative wing.
Well, that's just what I was going to ask. What is the end game here? You don't think we're going to actually go over the debt ceiling deadline?
Well, I'm an optimist, and you know, it's not very chic to be an optimist right now, but I do think that we'll go right up to the 17th. You know, it's not the voters in the districts that are going to matter to the House Republicans. I think it's going to be the marketplace. I think it's going to be the stock market. You know, if that starts falling to the floor, I think that will be the leverage to push this deal through. The key here is, will the president negotiate with House Republican leadership? I think what will end up happening is a short-term extension with some sort of budget, some sort of small budgetary concession that will get us into a 6-week framework to figure out the constructs of a potential deal.
Well, Ron, I know you've spent years working on your next book, Saving Face in Washington. Who has the most face to save right now?
Well, obviously, Speaker Boehner has a lot on the line here. I think his speakership rests upon whether or not he can navigate, you know, through this minefield, so to speak. And those who want to be speaker, I mean, you know, Eric Cantor, Kevin McCarthy, and Paul Ryan, they all have a lot on the line here. At the same time, you have, you know, House Republican conservatives who have, you know, drawn a line in the sand on Obamacare. So that's going to be interesting.
Maya McGinnis, you were very active in Fix the Debt campaign, which involved a number of corporate executives weighing in. I remember during the last time we had this fiscal fight. Not as visible right now. Where is the corporate leadership, and where actually are Bowles and Simpson?
Stepping up, because what Fix the Debt was is it was built to be an effort that would work with political leaders when they were trying to do a debt deal. And guess what? The political leaders haven't been able to make any progress. They kind of disappeared. And right now, you're starting to see a beginning of a discussion. Can we make some progress on entitlement reform and tax reform? And the CEOs are starting to ramp it up and talk to them and say, you can't default. What you're doing to the global economy is dangerous. And you need not just to talk about how to punt this to the next crisis, you need to fix the problem. So they're going to put a lot of pressure on them to come up with a deal after they come up with this temporary extension. We need a deal.
It's day 10. The only thing I know certain is the Cardinals won last night. What I don't understand, Maya, is I thought this was about the Affordable Care Act. I haven't heard you say that. It's changing. Where did the heat of day 4 go?
Yeah, you probably never would have heard me say that, because I think focusing on the Affordable Care Act was a complete distraction from focusing on the need to deal with entitlement reform and tax reform. And only now that we've shifted the discussion to those real issues, those real fiscal issues, do I think and hope that there may be a path forward where you extend the debt ceiling for a while, talk it through. But listen, we're talking as though the hard thing is to lift the debt ceiling for 6 weeks. No, the real discussion is what kind of a fiscal framework are they going to be able to agree to? That's the key, and that's the difficult piece.
Ron, you hear this. Where are the conservative Republicans this morning? I thought they and their talk radio and their genuine constituencies were completely, in every way, focused on the Affordable Care Act. Are they part of this discussion at 4 o'clock this afternoon?
Right. No, the meeting with the president is going to be with House GOP leaders and key committee chairmen. I think that, yes, I think those conservatives are still very much want to delay and defund Obamacare. There's no question about it. But there's a reality here that shutting down the government didn't stop Obamacare from beginning. Although it's limping along, it's started. And so the key here is, now that we have the debt ceiling, issue coming up on the 17th, how can they figure out a broader framework over budgetary and entitlement reforms? I don't think they're ever going to let up on the Obamacare situation, but they're switching gears here, at least at the leadership level, and trying to make sure that they have conservatives come along with them so they're able to get this passed. That's why I think we're seeing the broad construct stuff. And at the same time, I think the president does not want to see this the debt defaulted on his watch. He would be the first president in American history to do so, and there's a lot of pressure on him as well.
Well, Ron, on that note, I wonder how much urgency there really is around this debt ceiling. The administration says it would be catastrophic. A number of reputable economists say it would be catastrophic. But do you think that the extreme right House Republicans buy that idea? Because you have Moody's Investor Service, for instance, coming out with a report this week saying we have a few weeks maybe until we could actually be talking about not paying our bills.
Right. No, that's the problem here, is that that the administration, and Jack Lew's testimony is going to be important today, but there is the Chicken Little feeling from the administration that the world will come to an end. What really matters here, I think, is not the voters in these districts. It's going to be the world markets. It's going to be the U.S. stock and bond markets that make a difference here. That if they start really dropping, that's going to provide the leverage to get something through. But I do think we're going to go right up to the 17th. And hopefully